Hey, welcome to week 5. I hope everybody had a good weekend. And I wanted to start by just saying thank you to all of you for the hard work you put in the last month. As we go into the second month of the semester, keep working on your research projects, and we will spend some more time on those as we go along. If you haven't looked at the feedback on your first 2 worksheets yet, please do so that if there's any questions you have, we have a chance to answer those before you move on. And I will get you all some feedback on your the last worksheet that you just turned in within this week. So this week we are not working quite as directly on that project as we have the last couple weeks. This week we're going to go back to your textbook and you're going to read chapters 4 and 5 in the newest edition, which I think are chapters 3 and 4 in the older edition. It's the chapter on ethical research and the chapter on culturally competent research. I would start the week with those chapters. There's a quiz for each of those, which again you can take as many times as you want. I verified that it's the highest score that gets saved. So if you take it and then you take it again and get a lower score, it's still the highest score that you get. So there's no reason not to take it multiple times. And what we're really focusing on this week in those 2 chapters is thinking about ways to bring those social work values around social justice, dignity and worth of the person, human relationships, how to bring all of that into the research environment, which is really, really important. And so to get to that point, you're going to read these 2 research chapters that are going to give you some language around that. And so in addition to those being related to the quiz, they're also going to relate to the discussion that you do this week. So you're going to read one of 2 articles, either the Stennis article or the Fryer article. And there's 2 posts in the discussion forum. You don't have to do both. You pick one. So do one of those discussions, pick the article, read it, answer the questions about it, and respond to your classmates. So this is a more of a typical discussion forum than we've done the last couple of weeks, where you'll need to do your initial post, including citations and references, by Wednesday and respond to at least one of your classmates, if not more, by Friday, and then we'll continue the discussion through the week. So that's your first job, is to read these articles and then really answer some questions and think of yourself, if you were approaching a situation as a researcher, what would you do? The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to read or you're going to listen to a podcast about Henrietta Lacks. Now, you may have heard of Henrietta Lacks because her case was sort of famous. She had a book written about her, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And I know you're all crazy busy, but it is a phenomenal book, and I highly recommend it. It's actually on my bookcase at home because I pick it up every once in a while and read through it again. And the podcast that you'll listen to will tell you about her story, which is essentially around thinking about some research that was done, that was started decades ago in a not ethically and not culturally competent way. And so I think we all read the standards around ethical research and culturally competent research and think, of course, we're going to do it. But there's a ton of examples out there of cases where that didn't happen. And so we want to really think about what happened in those cases and what we could do differently. And actually the book, the Henrietta Lacks book, is one of your recommended resources if you wanted to pick that up. There's also a movie about it, a TV movie that starred Oprah that you might be interested in. And then one of the other recommended readings that I just wanted to highlight for you is a response to the Belmont Report, which is an interview with Dorothy Height. So you might remember learning about Dorothy Height in your 565 class, in your Policy 1 class. Dorothy Height was an amazing woman. She's a social worker. She was one of the African-American women who had the most say in the civil rights movement. She was actually the only woman on the podium when Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have the Dream speech. Dorothy Height was also a social worker, and she was asked to be part of writing the Belmont Report, which was probably 30-some years ago, one of the core foundations that set out what ethics look like in research in the United States. And so the reading that you have that it's recommended, but I think you'd really enjoy, is a conversation with her about why she was asked to do that, what she felt she contributed to the Belmont Report, and then sort of looking back on it from today. Dorothy Height actually passed away a couple years ago, and I had the opportunity to meet her once before she died, and it was an amazing experience. She was a legend of social work and of civil rights and just in the United States. Everyone should know who Dorothy Height is. And the other thing that you're going to need to do by the end of this week, which many of you have already done, is to complete your CITI training. And CITI training is a human subjects research training. It's required by Sacred Heart University for any Sacred Heart student who's going to do research. So you're doing this as an assignment for this class, but it also means any other research that you do while you're a student here, you won't have to do this because you'll have already completed it. So the instructions for that are on Blackboard. It is relatively time consuming, so I think put on Blackboard. You should expect it to take 4 to 6 hours, and I think that varies partially just depending on how fast you read. But it has to be done by the end of this week. So if you have any problems accessing that or working on that, let me know. The last thing that we're going to ask you to do this week, and I'm sorry to ask you to do one more thing, but we are doing some of our own research here at SHU, which is to try to evaluate engagement in social work research classes. And so what we'd like you to do on your activities page for this week, the very first link is a link to a quick survey that just asks you some of your thoughts and feelings about research. And if you could fill that out, it's not required, it's not part of your grade, but we would love for you to do that. So that's your job for this week. Have a great week. Reach out if you have questions. I'll check back in as the week goes on. Okay, bye-bye.